Hello, I'm Artem, an IT journalist and the podcast host here at awclub. And my guest today is Archil Varshanidze, Senior Software Engineering Manager at EPAM. He lives in Tbilisi, Georgia, and this beautiful country will be the main topic of our interview. Archil has more than 15 years of experience, so he knows local industry and community really well. He remembers the days when IT was not so popular and parents wanted their kids to become lawyers and economists rather than do nerdy things on the computer. And he knows the modern picture. Now Georgia has become part of a global IT with easy access to international projects. Software developer is a popular profession now, and social skills sometimes matter even most than technical ones. But before we begin, please visit the website of awclub, aw.club. It is a digital platform for professional community where you can discover job opportunities, find access to educational materials, look for some tips and advice. Please check the description below.
So my story starts back in the day. So I will do the long run. When I was a child, maybe I didn't used to have a PC at my home. But still, when I get to go to my neighbors or my relatives or just talk to them and just get to their places, when I saw the personal computers there, I used to start just doing random things, just copy pasting files or some stupid things like that, just small things. But I was so excited that I couldn't stop doing it for hours, really, I couldn't stand up. So the profession of software engineering or in general information technologies was not so popular back in the day. So yeah, it's just
I
everyone
remember those
considered
days.
that. Yeah. So everyone considered it waste of time. Unlike now, I might say. But yeah, then I just went to university without actually knowing what software engineering meant. I just loved computers. And when I thought about the faculty that I wanted to go to, it was just one where I knew that they would teach me some kind of computers. So I started there. Then
Which university was it?
So it was Tbilisi State University.
And the faculty?
Yeah, Faculty of Exact and Natural Sciences. I believe that is how it's translated.
Natural Sciences.
Yeah, it's you know what? So I don't like the translation too much, but that's the best translation I see around. So that's what I say. I'm not exactly sure about like natural sciences, but yeah.
Okay.
Back in those days, we didn't have computers, by the way. Actually, we used to learn software engineering on just writing on papers, on desks, and stuff like that. Yeah. Then I was not super motivated to study. I will be honest, too deeply, just subjects that they were teaching us. But I started working. My relative just sent out my CV to every available place because he was software engineer, by the way. It's my uncle. So my uncle was a software engineer at that time. He sent my CV. I didn't even just get to the point where I would do it myself. So he did that. And then one day they called me. I started working at ProCredit Bank. This was one of the banks in Georgia. And that's how my actual career started. Yeah.
Please tell me more about this. Where did you get such a CV that a big bank could allow you to work there?
Yeah, I was very surprised too, by the way, because I didn't have any actual working experience. And obviously my CV was not full with working experience too. But they called me and they talked to me. So I had an interview. I believe that they might have seen that I have a good potential. Maybe the way I used to talk, maybe. And I remember that I answered some very specific questions. And that's another point. So I knew some things because even though I didn't have like practical hands-on experience from software engineering side, I used to read some things, some books. But I'm not saying that I used to read books, educate myself, because now that I do that in education, it's a totally different story. So back then it was just reading some online articles about some things. And I think it's partially the luck because they asked me the specific questions that I could answer. For example, in .NET, they asked me about the configuration file and what does configuration file do. I remember that, and I explained some of the items that were contained in configuration file, and that's it. So yeah, I got the junior job. Obviously, it was not like and we had the period when they would just uh, see how I work, and then maybe they would let me go or they would let me stay. So after a couple of months, they obviously let me stay. I mean, I'm talking about the probation period. But yeah, so yeah, good times.
Yeah. Was it difficult to make it at the same time to learn at university and to work on a real job?
It was not because I didn't used to study and go to university, by the way. that's the thing. I didn't go to university. I used to attend some examinations, but I used to get practical experience from working at bank, and I didn't have too much interest of going and studying in university because what I was interested in was the actual job. But university was teaching me some algebra, the advanced mathematics, and stuff like that, which I was not too interested in back then, and I'm not interested in right now. So I just passed the exams, you might say, with just suffering and pain and tears, but I passed the exams, and that was it. But
Yeah.
the hard thing for me actually was when I started working, it was pretty hard, and not because of my technical skills, but it was really stressful. So before I started working at the bank, or just before I started working in general, I was free more or less, right? So, and I turned to the point when in the morning I would wake up, go to my job from 9 to evening or 10 to evening. I used to sit there. I had to be productive. It was the strange environment for me because obviously the things that I did were not the same that I imagined that I would be doing. So they were totally different and the challenges were different and physical just suffering was also there because that I was sitting for a couple of hours, my neck started hurting. That's
Yeah.
just yeah. I
That's
never
a common
expected
problem. Yeah.
that would start back in the day. So yeah,
Mhm.
that was more harder rather than balancing two things at the same time. Even one thing was challenging. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about community, IT community in Georgia, but first, uh, listening to a story, I see a thing that I see it's a big thing here, a family. So
Yeah.
you have a family of software developers. Your uncle is a software engineer. You say about your brother who is also software engineer.
Yeah.
So maybe your community starts there in families.
Um, yeah. I mean, I would say that yes, because Um, being a software for my uncle, it's a very big surprise that my uncle is a software engineer because of his age. So it was many years ago, right? Like even when I was born, I guess 30 years ago, he was already a software engineer working one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies. So uh, obviously, it is like the road that was already taken, and you understand that it goes somewhere, right? I so it was a big help, the trigger that okay, we can do this, and that also helped me to actually touch the computer and actually see that I like it. I like sitting down and so on. But the influence in Georgia, yeah, it's pretty important. Family members kind of guide you and dictate you where you might go. I will not say that even though I had a family of software engineers, it was not a very easy decision for me because my father did not want for me to go to software engineering too much because he thought that it would not be as popular as something else, just standard things like being an advocate, if I'm pronouncing the term correctly, or a doctor or stuff like that. I don't know. He was a bit
Yeah.
scared. I'm sharing this because I know that this is the story for many, many people around myself. So many people, when they went to software engineering, their families said, maybe don't go there. So yeah,
So
it is a bit painful.
your father and your uncle, they should argue about you.
Yeah, they must have argued, but yeah, I chose my way too. They were brothers. I actually never asked about if they had the conversation and what did they decide in the end. But yeah, I still chose to go this way because for me it was not imaginable to
Mhm.
go any other way. And I feel like I'm lucky in there because it was not a logical decision, I promise you. A logical decision is when you just have just big demonstration that something is working. For me, it was just my passion. I just loved computers, even not even the software engineering, but actually just the computers. And
Mhm.
yeah, that was for me somehow enough to make that decision 20
Mhm.
years ago. Yeah, almost 20 years ago. And obviously, it was a good decision. I never regretted it.
A lot of my friends and a lot of software developers I know, they always wanted to make video games. They love computers because of video games. And when they start their career, it's their dream. I want to make my own game. Uh, is it not your case?
That is a very good question because I never thought of that. It's not my case at all. What I
Okay.
would explain something that I used to do just so that you can understand what I meant. I had in my uncle's computer, there was one long song that I liked. It was some, not even the song, but performance of some Georgian comedy, stand
Mhm.
up comedian or something like that, let's say it shortly. And I wanted to show that to my friends. And what I did was that I used to I archived that file, distributed on couple of floppy disks, then
Mhm.
bring those floppy disks in a different city because I didn't used to live in Tbilisi back in the day. Find a computer that had floppy disk, then insert it, then join the archives and extract them. And just this process what was the like everything that I loved. I couldn't get away from this process, just organizing, copy pasting files, doing blind typing or stuff like that.
Mhm.
I never even thought even once about doing video games. So that's a
Okay.
good point. I didn't know that many people like that.
Yeah, I don't know, but me myself, I love computers because of video games, and it was
Well,
my dream too. But
yeah.
I
Maybe
didn't
because I
haven't
didn't have,
pursued it.
yeah, maybe because I didn't have my own personal computer at home, I just was unable to play games.
So it was your first work. You was
Yes,
a .NET engineer, right?
yes, I was the .NET engineer back then.
So you learned C Sharp by yourself.
I learned C sharp partially by myself, partially my uncle and his family were family of software engineers actually. And
Mhm.
my uncle used to give me the directions of like C sharp, the .NET, the SQL Server, and overall the SQL kinds of things.
Mhm.
Partially some design materials and so on. He personally used to write on Delphi, but my cousin used to write on .NET. So in general, I was in an environment where I had access to some things and they guided me and they gave me direction. But if I say where I when I discovered that I learned C sharp, that I felt confident that I know some things, it was
Mhm.
3 years after I started my job. After 3 years, I discovered that okay, now I'm learning, now I know what to do, now I understand the situation around. Because back in the day, it was just I used to know only the things that were assigned to me. If they gave me to update some stored procedures or do some SQL scripts, I used to look at examples of
Mhm.
the senior software engineers that they used to write, and then obviously add my logic, change some things, and update stuff like that. But I was unable to start from zero, the blank page, and build something that would be impossible for me back then. But yeah,
Mhm.
I learned in ProCredit, I learned partial like 50-50 SQL Server and databases and some .NET and some Delphi, by the way. I used to
Uh,
write on Delphi too because they had internal systems like that.
Nowadays there's a lot of people who call themselves senior developers after 3 years.
Okay, yeah.
And you say you just start learning at 3 years. It's okay. I understand.
Yeah, I mean, the notion of being a senior software engineer and what does senior software engineer do is very different. It differs from company to company. Obviously,
Yeah.
we at EPAM think about it a bit differently. But in the general terms, for me, senior software engineer is a person who can work without or with little supervision,
Hmm.
that have good communication skills and can actually ask questions and clarify assignments when the assignments are unclear. They might need some updating and stuff like that. Senior engineers should be able to take some responsibility and deliver it till the end. And obviously, it is not only with technical skills. It's about
Yeah,
your
I'm
soft
agree.
skills,
I
communication
agree.
skills, taking responsibility, by the way, being maybe scared to not be able to do something and then actually learning and doing it and stuff like that. I decided to revisit my learning process and almost start with zero because at some point it became too painful for me that I was able to copy someone else's work,
Hmm.
update someone else's work, and do changes and deliver. But it was impossible for me to build something from zero. And at that moment, I decided that I didn't want to be like that anymore. But I didn't start from directly jumping into like software architecture and stuff like that. I just stepped back. I opened the C Sharp book, by the way, uh, and I started from zero learning C Sharps to close all the gaps that I previously had. My intention was to, when I looked at the code, not to only make it work, but to actually understand what it does immediately. I achieved
Hmm.
that, by the way. I read decent number of books. It took me a couple of years to actually call myself senior, but then I used to work differently, see differently, and so on. So yeah, that was like deciding moment in my career when I actually committed myself to learning. When I said, okay, enough is enough, I need to learn. So that
Yeah.
that changed everything.
This moment, was it in the bank on the
No,
same? No, it was a different
no,
job.
it was different job because it was actually the software engineering company. So I left the bank and moved to software engineering company. Bank was beautiful, good place, very supportive people, and I'm really grateful for the work I did there. But I had a couple of recommendations, and I decided to try actually to work in the smaller office of people that were just software engineers.
Hmm.
There's big difference between working in a bank and working in a software engineering company. For banking, the IT services are the support shared services, but they are secondary in banks. I mean, I know that I'm generalizing, but if you look at definitions, the software engineering or IT is supporting the main products of the bank, which are the maybe loans and many other things like
Hmm.
turning
Hmm.
over money and just selling the products regarding to bank. But in software engineering company, the only thing that we did is to sell actual the software, right? I was involved in that. So I wanted to try that. What does it mean to be in just company that focused on software engineering? It was scary at start because bank was my first job, and even starting with the building of the bank, everything was super safe. I mean, not in the terms of violence, but I know that the
Super
salary would not
comfort,
get
okay?
delayed. It's comfortable, the
Yeah.
safe, the amazing building. Nobody just pushed you too much. Everyone understands their assignments. It's a relaxed process or something different. And with this other software company, when I came to the interview, it was just a couple of rooms of one of the buildings. It was just the regular flat. It was big flat, but
Hmm.
obviously just 30 people sitting around or 40, and that's it. Nothing else. It was scary at start because I was used to. I caught myself. I had the feelings that this is something else, and this is that bank is better because it's like beautiful and cool. But I mean, from inside, they differ because of the focus, because internally, software engineering companies have different focus, and other companies where IT services are secondary or just additional
Hmm.
services, they are totally different by what they can teach you.
Hmm.
And it happened in that second company.
Was it small startup or just
No, it's actually a pretty big company in Georgia. They had banking outsource software that they used to sell in banks. So many banks in Georgia worked on a daily basis with the software provided by that company. So
Oh,
they were
okay, I get
software
it.
providers. So yeah, they were focused on
Okay.
that. It was not a startup. It was pretty established. One of the greatest companies even to this day. So yeah, they were just,
Mhm.
it was not a small startup.
I can understand it back in the days when programming software development wasn't so popular, but now it's popular. Now it brings a lot of money. So
Yeah.
how modern relatives see when they are child tell I want to be a software developer. No, you better become a lawyer or doctor. I don't think it's the case now.
No, it's not anymore because compared to other disciplines, software engineers, um, we could say that make more money
Hmm.
rather than, for example, I obviously don't know about every other discipline, but what I know for sure that in a couple of years, without actually going to a university and studying in university or getting any formal education, you can learn something and actually become a professional in such a manner that you get paid even more than doctors.
Yeah.
Because if you want to become a doctor, you need to through a very formal and specific process, and I don't feel like it's guaranteed that you will have same amount of income uh, well compared to same years of software engineer. Obviously there are beautiful and amazing doctors that just get much more money if it comes only to money, but the simplicity of software engineering is that you actually really need just the computer of some sorts, and you can become a professional if you can work on yourself. That is the main difference between our profession direction compared to others, right? I
Hmm.
don't feel like you can become one day just say that, okay, I will become a doctor, then do some kind of things yourself, and then become a professional doctor and work on biggest clinics in Tbilisi or outside of Georgia. But with
Hmm.
software engineering, you can actually do that. You can start working, just open PC, read some things, work on yourself, and start working at EPAM. Great. And right now in Georgia, it's a huge wave, and everyone is going to go to software engineering. And it is beautiful, and they should, and I support them, and that's amazing. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't
Uh,
think it's a problem right now.
in your opinion, what is the most popular way in Georgia to start a career in IT?
Uh, that's a good question. So,
Maybe
most
university
popular,
or
yeah, yeah,
some
I understand.
specific courses or.
Most popular, I believe, most popular are still the universities. I have a feeling, I don't know the numbers, but I
Mhm.
feel like most popular are still universities because I think universities give some kind of confidence to people that they are safe, that they will achieve their goals, and they kind of know that they will become something when they finish the university.
Mhm.
That's, I think, was after that there are many, many, many educational courses, and the second would be the things people go search for. That's online courses, the academies that don't have any formal approvals, but they
Mhm.
created online courses. They enroll people, and then they help them even to get some jobs. There are many, many different courses. I would not be going into too much specifics right now, I guess, but they differ by what they provide. Some of them, they just give you the learning materials online, you learn, and that's it.
Mhm.
Others give you mentorship actually to discuss your progress. And I think that's beautiful. Mentorship is one of the greatest things in education, where you can actually share what you've learned with someone, and they can fix maybe your mindset or help you look at things differently. And third ones are the professional colleges, if I'm not mistaken. In the wording of those, they are some kind of mix between universities, but they are focused on a lesser scope, not offering those wide range of subjects, but maybe
Mhm.
some specific directions. And the less popular of them all, I believe, is the self-study. When people
Less
just say,
popular.
okay,
Okay.
yeah, it's less popular, I believe, without of help of like some specific educational company, just sitting down, saying that you want to learn something and actually going and learning it. Yeah, this is what I think.
Yeah. And what do you think about companies? Is it important for them, for software developers, to have a university degree?
No, of course, not like,
No,
let's see it
like
like that.
everywhere else.
I
Yeah.
don't, yeah. I hire people in our .NET practice in Georgian EPAM. So
Hmm.
uh, I never remember actually checking the university degree. But that's important thing. I never check. But if person has the university degree of some specific, like important uh, university, then I will go and just appreciate that and
Hmm.
understand that people might be better. What I'm saying is that it is not needed. For me, it's an additional benefit, but it depends on what universities they actually finished. Some of the universities I respect less, obviously. Some of the universities I respect more. But from my perspective, what I'm expecting from universities is actually being able to teach people soft skills, not hard skills, but soft skills,
It's
such as the
unpopular
discipline, the
opinion.
delivery.
Such
Yeah,
an,
that's what
I heard
that's
a lot of people say that for university, it's important to give people fundamentals, science
yeah, man.
fundamentals.
Fundamentals, yeah, but yeah, I don't disagree with that. But for
Hmm.
me, it's not the primary thing that university or formal education like university can provide. It's for me, it's
Interesting.
discipline. Is the discipline because back in the day when we started software engineering, it was when I started software engineering, it was kind of some kind of hipster people. There were not so many software engineers around. We were considered some kind of outcasts in some stereotypical sense. That's what I meant. Obviously, nobody
Hmm.
was an outcast, but in general, they used to have some stereotypical thinking that people who like software engineering just sit down in front of computer all day. They are nerds. They don't go out. They don't have friends. I don't know, many things that you've heard like that.
I heard
Because it
everything.
was not
Yeah.
that popular, there were not too many software engineers, and it was stereotypical. Right now, I mean, there's a like the supply changed a lot, so
Hmm.
there are many software engineering. It's growing, and once again, this is very good. So, but right now, I think that when there is a big supply of software engineers, the obviously the requirements for these people also change, right? Right
Yeah.
now, I don't consider software engineers only the people that code. For me, even the juniors or middle specialists are the people that can communicate, understand the assignment, talk with stakeholders, and if they have questions, just push to clarify, be able to review and understand code of different people, be able to ask questions, participate in team discussions and activities such as retrospectives, and be able to share what they feel and be able to open, and many other things. So, if you consider all that, the actual coding part, just hands on, just typing some words and numbers on your keyboard, it has less space right now. It's not the full time. We don't only do that because there are
Hmm.
some other things. For me personally, the soft skills part, it might be like 60 to 40. 60 would be soft skills, communication, and all the other things, and 40 would be the coding and hands on skills. Because I believe that it is much more difficult to learn communication, the attitude towards your team members, the responsibility taking, and stuff like that. And it's a bit easier to learn the technologies.
Uh-huh.
So I expect universities or any other formal education, and even non formal, whatever, I expect all the professionals to know how to deliver the code, but in a manner that they just communicate with each other, they have quality, they have discussions, and all those professional things that make up people is not only coding part. So I
Yeah.
hope
Yeah.
that from universities, they give that formal feeling. I will give you just as an example. It is very hard to not be late on meetings, right? Not very hard. I'm sorry. It's very important to not be late on meetings. Sometimes we are already late for meetings. It's very important to notify team members if you're late for meetings. If you are late, if you even cannot attend meeting at all, it's important to notify in advance team members of the meeting, because even being 3 minutes late, what is 3 minutes? Maybe you consider nothing, right? But you start, then whole team waits for you. Then someone says, okay, let's call Archil if he's late. Then they call, just ping me and ask, are you Archil late? Then I answer in 2 minutes, I will join in 2 minutes, and whole other kind of strange interactions happening because I don't care. I didn't care enough to say, guys, I will be 2 minutes late. If I wrote that in advance in chat, team would be like, okay, guys, Archil will be 2 minutes late. Let's start from Georgi, I mean someone else, and then Archil will join, and everything is handled beautifully. Whole team is losing time on meetings and energy, and just they are not on a good mood because someone doesn't care enough to explain. This is not a technical thing. You are just that's
Yeah,
the
I
problem,
understand.
because
Yeah.
it is very easy to do, to inform someone. It's a very easy to do, right? Guys, I will be 2 minutes late. Takes just 15 seconds. But actually having the mindset that keep track if you're late or not, and actually caring enough to inform people, that's a problem. And that is very hard to read in books. Someone needs to just sit down with you, work with you, mentor, explain, and many other things until you get the habit. And I feel like good universities, I mean, good universities are good in helping those kinds of soft skills, the responsibility, and overall teaching people that profession of software engineering is not only just coding, it's many other things too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I have too
No,
high hopes,
I
but
think it's a good
I
point.
want to.
Yeah.
I
It's
think I want to universities to be those kinds of just
yeah.
places where you learn those kinds of things.
I think you're right because the soft skill is a big part now, and this nerdy stereotype is crushed completely. It's in the past. Can you tell me about Georgian industry in general?
We need to get back to a couple of uh, years earlier. So
Okay.
maybe 5 years earlier, I might say, Georgia was pretty active in software engineering. We had a lot of educational centers, the people just going without jumping into straight into profession of software engineering. Not only engineers, but designers, the communities. So it is a very active and on high level. But starting from joining of EPAM and many other companies, it was not in like evolution step by step, but I believe that it was a huge jump because Georgians got to get in touch and work with international projects very easily, like immediately. So there was one day when, if they wanted to work in international environment, they used to register on some online services or move abroad. And I had many of my friends and just people that I knew relocate to Poland to work in EPAM and to work from EPAM on just some monstrous of one of our customers. And right now, you imagine that waking up in Georgia, not leaving your home, and then being able to work with some of the greatest companies that you just heard of, and it was not accessible to you. So it was a revolution, I guess. Started from EPAM, and then many other companies followed. Obviously, it was not only one EPAM. So right now, industry is in a state that it is still within that phase of revolution, but it step by step obviously calms down, but it is still happening because it was a huge change. People are still moving around from company to company. People still discovered that if you lack, or hopefully they discovered that if you lack some skills, changing company doesn't help you. You actually need to sit down and learn. And it's not like working on a international company will fix the issues or gaps in your knowledge that you have, because it's more demanding. Because many people would have an excuse that, okay, if I worked in the better organized projects, it would be easier for me to work.
Mhm.
That is partially true, but better working environment doesn't guarantee that your missing skill set will be covered and you will feel happy. Skills still need to be covered. And those skills are very important. And I think that industry is right now in the stage of trying to understand and step by step understanding that soft skills are those communication and professional skills are very important, whether you work for local or international company, whatever.
Mhm.
So that's from where I think the industry stands at. It is growing very fast, and many people are learning, and that's amazing. And that should be, again, I will note it as many times as I will have a chance that it's a great choice. So whoever is watching, this is a great choice. Go to informational technologies. And so regarding demand, obviously cloud technologies are in very high demand. Uh, I see many designer communities, and actually being a hands-on designer became more and more attractive and important, and people are going to design. One of the skills that is I even can't describe the importance of it is a business analysis. So business analysts, unfortunately, they are not as known in Georgia, or the business analysis direction is not understood completely in Georgia. But I will say that if someone is watching now and doesn't want to get into software engineering, business analysis and doing quality business analysis is where the whole project stands. So if you ask me, the role of good business analysts is just almost impossible. So yeah, I'm a huge. For me, it's like one of the most important professions or skills in the team. So focus on business analysts. That's what I wanted to say. And
Interesting. Interesting opinion.
yeah, from technical. Uh, mm, yeah, because you know what? Okay, let's jump to this and then I will finish. Everyone complains that the customers are not able to express whatever they want to build.
Mhm.
Customers complain that developers are not able to understand them. Uh, and the project managers are managing customer and developers, but the business analysis is the all-knowing people that know whole domain, and additionally, they are like the bridge between everyone that they can ask right questions, connect these people, and actually deliver the value.
Mhm.
It's, of course, it's not only business analyst, like only just a business analyst cannot create a whole solution or project or value for the business. But in Georgia, I see that business analysis direction is not so popular, and I wish it would change so that it's like very popular because it's important.
Let's hope it
And
will.
yeah, let's hope. And from technical perspective, I think .NET is more widespread, and many people know .NET in Georgia regarding the backend technologies. If you compare it to Java,
Mhm.
so I think .NET is much more important because one of the biggest employers in Georgia use .NET as their internal skills. In front tech, the front end technologies, I think it's not even a competition because they use everything. So it's
Yeah.
not like .NET
Yeah.
and Java less, .NET more. In front end, Angular, React, Vue.js is less famous, I guess, or less popular. But plain JavaScript, it's also gaining more and more attention to actually know the fundamentals and treat front end languages not only just to show some visuals, but actually the back end of the front end, something
Mhm.
like that. So yeah, front end technologies are popular. And mobile device programming is very popular. The supply is low in mobile device programming, such as iOS or Android engineers. Supply is low, but demand is very high, so that's important too. Python, data science, uh, is slowly gaining the phase, I believe, and step by step will be going into the direction that people will be using more Python.
Mhm.
I think that's it. Regarding clouds and DevOps specialists, I also see the very raising popularity of DevOps specialists, and it makes me very happy because it's very important and people know clouds and they learn. So yeah, that's good, I
Mhm.
guess.
So, how can I see it? The biggest part of the market, as far as I understand, is that international outsourcing companies or international companies that work here.
I would say that I don't have all the numbers,
Mhm.
but Um, I would say it's 50-50. So I would not say that biggest part is international software companies. Local companies such as some banks, some governmental organizations also employ big number of people. So
Hmm.
if it comes only to the number of people, I don't think that international companies have biggest amount of people compared to local Georgian companies.
Hmm.
Because there is one important thing for international companies, you need to speak good English, right? And
Right.
although Georgia is famous for English speaking, and I think we have amazing skills, like in Georgia in general, our
Hmm. Hmm.
customers also note that we have a good English speaking people. Historically, so EPAM has been around, so we started late 2020, so it's 2.5 years, right? 2.5 years. For people that could move to international companies and they had blockers of English level, they stayed in Georgian speaking companies. This was one of the blockers, and they slowly started learning English or didn't even start learning English. I don't know. So if you count only by numbers, I think local companies employ many people. That is also great. And because many people also prefer to work in Georgian environment so that they don't get to talk international. Because knowing English is one thing. Talking to people more or less is also one thing, but actually being to communicate, maybe tell some jokes, I don't know, to feel free when you're in the meeting. It's not the same thing. You cannot just learn English and speak like a robot and feel like you have a good friendship or professional relationship with someone when you can laugh together, tell jokes and whatever.
Hmm.
It is kind of a blocker. And I think it needs more time so that people understand and learn the social English, and they feel free when they're talking,
Hmm.
not just by the certification learning something, because soon sooner or later it gets boring to not be able to talk to the people like honestly from the heart and just have a good time. So that needs focus.
Hmm. And what about startups, local startups? Do you know any
Yeah,
interesting
I
local
know
startups?
many local startups. One of the most famous, I believe. So I don't want to offend anyone. One of the famous local startups that comes to mind is Tbilisi. Tbilisi are our friends that uh, they do tour organizations and just they gather the information regarding when you want to go outside and check out some places, which roads to take, which sightseeings to see, stuff
Hmm.
like that. So they went international, and Bilik is the first one that comes to mind. Uh, Second one is Theneo, if I'm not mistaken. I will not say that they won some acceleration program. I don't want to be mistaken, so I will not be naming the specifics of that, but it was
Okay.
huge because they won international acceleration program, if I'm not mistaken, and they are building API documentation tools.
Hmm.
This is immediately what comes to mind, but there are many, many others, I believe, and sorry if I offend any of my friends who see this and I might forget their startups. It is not intentional, guys.
What is the most popular strategy for people who want to make startup? Are they making for internal market or with intent to make it international in the very beginning?
That's a very good question, which I don't have professional answer to, because
Okay.
I it it should start with an idea, and yes, I think if they can, they should focus on international. They
Hmm.
should. There's a reasoning behind that, because Georgian market might be easier to target, but we are not very big country and we are not a lot of people. And for business ideas to gain big popularity, I believe
Hmm.
business ideas and actual working up and needs the market of many people to try it. So if you have big goals and big dreams, Georgian right now, Georgia will not be enough, I believe, to cover like market demand, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think that it should immediately they should start thinking internationally. And this is one thing regarding the market size, and the second one is that international market is accessible, and I mean, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe that uh, it is not an incremental steps you take. First start from Georgia, and step by step you will gain international, and then you will go to Cosmos, whatever. I think the initial mindset is very important, and it guides your decisions that you make. If you focus on international, there are immediately some things that you say that, okay, this will not work like this. Just as an example, the easiest one, if you want to have people to pay something in your app, you should have the international payment provider, right?
Mm-hmm.
You cannot have immediately the payment provider in your app that works only with Georgian cards or works only locally or something like this. So it helps you in your decision making. And if you start with the one thing and then you will have to replace everything as you go, it is a bit harder then. But there comes like another side of the coin. I think my answer here is it's very standard answer. International is better, but so do think other startups that they think the same. So everyone, the concurrency is bigger there. It takes more effort to actually just
Mm-hmm.
make your app live and actually just reach some goals. So I guess it, it is the question of dedication of what you are ready to do
Yeah.
because familiar environment is easier to navigate, but it doesn't yield as big of a result as it could. International environment is harder to navigate, but it yields bigger results. So
Yeah.
yeah, some kind of personal choice should be made there.
My personal experience about Georgia, as I see, it's a it's a nice place to start a business. It's very easy. You have a really low taxes, low bureaucracy, and everything else. So a lot of countries where IT industry is young, is really really young, they governments try to support IT companies, and they make some kind of IT parks or everything governmental programs to lower taxes and everything else. But uh, you already have all conditions, all beautiful conditions to start a business. Maybe do you have some special conditions for IT companies, or maybe do you have it or no, or it's
No,
just
so I do think that it is very special because it was intentional. It's not some random thing that people used to just. It's not like we had the special conditions and then automatically IT companies start using that. It's not like that. We
mm,
knew that it should have been done in Georgia. So the tax rate originally was 20% for software companies. And after that, it was changed exactly the time when it caused the IT revolution because
mhm,
from 20%, the tax rate, state tax rate changed to 5%.
mhm,
But I'm trying to say that it was intentional. It was not some random thing. It was very intentional, and we
yeah,
wanted to do that, and it was done in Georgia, and that caused the big explosion of IT that is happening right now. And that's amazing. And yes, I do think that just creating the company, starting the business, is very easy, including the financials part. We don't have too complicated system of financials. I don't know the correct term, unfortunately, in English, but yeah, financial system is very easy to navigate from company management perspective. We have many small startups regarding some administrative stuff. You can rent an office very easily. You can work remotely. You don't need to go to the office to work remotely. We have like accounting companies that do outsourcing of accounting so that, for example, if you are a Polish guy and you came to Georgia, want to start IT business, you can outsource the job to the local accounting companies, and you as a director don't need to worry too much about specifics of local environment and many other things. So yeah, it was intentional, it was done, and it gave great results, I believe, because one of
yeah,
the reasons is that me and you are speaking right now because
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's
Can we speak about local community? I really want to know about it. Maybe you have some big events or big communities,
Um,
digital
yeah.
communities. Where is your most popular social networks where you hang out?
So I think that it has not achieved, like community part has not achieved its maximum potential just yet in Georgia, but it's slowly gaining more and more like popularity. Facebook would be the first one that comes to mind. There are
Mhm.
some Facebook groups for designers, for developers, for engineers, many other stuff like that. Just yeah, they get organized in groups and they hang out there socially online without actual physical meetings. Sometimes they do meet physically, obviously, but yeah, the first Facebook is one of the most important. The Facebook groups would be the primary focus. There are companies that have their own communities that they drive communities. Facebook is a free format, and even though the number of people is highest, I believe, in those groups, it doesn't mean that actually that much people contribute.
Mhm.
Second level that I would discuss is company or individually organized communities, such as, for example, EPAM has many communities, even for inside, for outside, and know many communities. That we organized some physical events, and there are some companies, educational companies, some individual companies, and some individual people that share the events that are physically when you need to go and attend those. From what I'm seeing is some kind of a discussion format when you or just people gather and have some open kind of discussions, or they have a couple of meetings, and that's where they hang out. It has kind of event format, but it's more open to participate and open for discussions. The third thing is that big software, and not only software but tech events that are happening that are well organized. A couple of them that comes to mind is Touch Conference, for example, the Spotlight. Yeah, these two at least that were held recently, and I remember. And they bring the speakers from all over the world, and
Mhm.
they deliver high quality speeches. So it's like paid tickets. You should buy the tickets. You'd go there, but you can meet people from around the world, from the companies that yet you would like to hear. I mean, from social media, for example, one of the events had like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok speakers directly from those companies standing in front of you talking.
Great,
So
great.
in general, it depends. It depends on whatever you want to learn. If you are just a beginner and want to get in touch with some people, you can. The easiest thing to do is to be a member of those online communities on Facebook or any other social media. I think it's more Facebook, or go to LinkedIn and subscribe to some Georgian people. LinkedIn becomes more and more popular. I don't feel like there are many groups on LinkedIn, but the individual people, they share updates and they're interesting to follow. I cannot recommend anyone right now, but just check it out. If you want to go out and physically meet someone and take part in discussions, then in those Facebook groups, you will see the events that are happening and you could go there. And if you want a very polished experience on very important speakers with some, when you have more experience, that's when I would more check out the tech events that are happening, and they have like advertisements all around the city and in town, but like in the country, and you get to go there.
Mhm.
Obviously, this division is not like very strict lines. Everyone can go everywhere and learn because it's an unending process. But these are three main directions that I would identify.
Is Georgian community is spread around the country, or is it centralized in, say, Tbilisi and Batumi?
Unfortunately, it's. I would say that it's centralized in Tbilisi. There are some events happening, but in Batumi too. But it's mainly centralized in Tbilisi.
Mhm.
I don't like that, obviously, because communities need to be decentralized. But hopefully, we will get there in a couple of years, so that the It is decentralized, and not only Batumi, by the way. Kutaisi has a very good potential in those terms. Kutaisi, like historically, had many people that were good at like algorithms and data structures, and they used to take part in many like championships, competitions, just online, offline, and they used to get very good results. There are some schools that gave very good quality students, like professionals, even from the start. So Kutaisi would be the next one. But
Mhm.
in the modern world, even if we don't focus on cities specifically, if you have notebook and internet, and Georgia, I believe, has a very good coverage of internet, you could organize those community locally in any city, town, place. I don't know.
Uh,
So I hope to see more activity in that direction.
I think remote work is a popular thing now. Mm, because of COVID,
Yes,
maybe. But after the COVID, it became the big thing. Everybody now on remote work or hybrid format or something else. Is it the case for Georgia?
it is the case for Georgia. Many people are online and with remote work. It started post COVID, yes, and many companies that, and including myself, I will be honest, I never considered working from home because I like to talk to people, get in
Hmm.
touch with them, just connect with them in our work environment. And yeah, but after COVID, it was impossible, so people needed to adapt. And right now, not everyone, but many companies are remote. But it comes with a couple of things that need to be taken care of. First of all, remote doesn't mean the free schedule in terms that I will wake up and I will work whenever I want, from wherever I want. In general, like sitting on the beach, just sipping margaritas and working at the same time. That never works. Well, honestly, it's
It's so
impossible. And
surprising. How can it's unbelievable, but it's true.
yeah, I mean, because people just approach the remote working that they can work from anywhere. No, you cannot work from anywhere because there are
Yes.
some exceptions, of course, by default this rule. But first of all, you need quiet environment to actually be able to focus. You need to talk to people, and remote means that all the meetings are online. If there is like sea noises or just animal noises around you, if you're sitting in the middle of the forest, I don't know, it's not sustainable, and it can't happen long term. It's obviously for 1-2 days it's acceptable, but not for long term. And remote at the same time doesn't mean that you get to start working when you like and finish working when you like, because there are meetings, the customer meetings, the deployments, the maybe scrum ceremonies, whatever. So the majority of people will still need to organize some kind of like have some kind of discipline, organize some kind of working environment so that they are productive. And at least for me personally, it's impossible just to take a notebook, walk around, and stop and do meetings or just do work and then continue. I need to just be productive and sit down in a single space where I know what's happening around me. But the additional thing is that uh, remote or not remote, the productivity still needs an attention, right? And there is some catch in remote work that for some people, it has become unending working environment. You get to wake up, you get to start working, then it's a night and you get to sleep and the cycle repeats, and then you are not on the happiest that you've ever been, and productivity decreases because when you are in the only the same environment all the time, you forget that sometimes you need to go out, socialize, or not socialize, but just switch your mind off from work. And when you worked from the office, it provided some kind of barrier, right? When
Yes.
the clock hits 7, 8, or whatever time you worked, you knew that it was time to move out and at least take a walk, go home, or not go home, whatever. When that line is erased, now people need to figure something out for themselves so that they don't spend all the time working and not taking care of some other activities or themselves from
Hmm.
that perspective. So, and what I'm seeing increasingly is that companies also starting calling people back to work. We did not, and job at EPAM is fully remote. What I do is that we offer hybrid mode. What I get to say to people that I talk with is that we offer remote uh, working environment, but they don't need to come. If they want to come, then they can visit the office. But I see increasing number of people that don't want to work from home and that they have a need to socialize with other people. So
Mhm.
it slowly comes back. It will never be as office-based work as it was before. I believe it will never come to that. But more and more people need that office space to socialize with their colleagues, sometimes have some fun, just talk, connect. So that is also increasing. So it is
Yeah,
not as easy as
yeah.
just remote is better, office work is hard. Yes, it has its own pros and
I
cons.
remember how people who were tired from remote work.
Yeah,
I a lot of my friends dreamed about returning to office. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So couple more little questions. Uh, can you describe? Can you tell me the most common age of a senior developer in Georgia?
Yeah, I believe it would be something from 23 to 25, 26. That would be the senior. So
Hmm.
when in the mid 20s, I would say
Mid
mid
twenties.
20s.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
mid. Early to mid 20s, I believe, is a good time for seniors.
Hmm. And can you describe a common ideal career here? Yeah, is it to work in big international company on high position, or is it to start your own company, or is it to move to another country, to Europe, to United States, or somewhere else?
I would say that it's unclear right now. Really, it's unclear. Before, it was that you used to start as a software engineer. You
Mhm.
either became an architect and then you would go to manager, and nobody used to write code all the time. So, and they all would go to management or they start their own business and sometimes even outside of software engineering. That
Mhm.
was before. You did not get to see a lot of people that had, for example, 30 years of experience in solution architecture or project management in Georgia.
Mhm.
You didn't used to, and it was more rare case when people were 30 years of experience and they still wrote code and they still were good at doing like writing code. That was unimaginable. And so before EPAM and some other companies joined, it was like, okay, we start, guys, couple of years we will be coding, then we will become some kind of engine managers or move somewhere else to do some different lifestyle even, I don't know. So the age of people being involved in software engineering, I think it was like the maximum 40. Obviously, I don't want to offend anyone. There are many exceptions to that case, but in general, when I grew up, I only saw people that were maybe like 10 years older than me that did software engineering next to me, 10, 15 years, somewhere between 40. Right now, and I will say that specifically when EPAM joined, people understood that it's different thing because they get to see someone working with you that has like 30 of years of experience in the field. They are still good, they are still growing, they are still active. They don't think that, okay, I will not do this and like dramatically change something, and they see that they still like it. So I think this IT revolution brought the unclearness, because standard thoughts that people had that, okay, I will work a couple of years as a coder and then I will do something else. It broke down because then they see that, okay, next to me is just some guy. He's like 50 years old. He's maybe like 20 years older than me, and he's very good. I mean, he's still a very good, and he does write a code, and I'm amazed by how good he writes the code. And now people have examples, and because of that the mindset is broken, because people thought that it would stop.
Mhm.
And in EPAM, at least in EPAM, I know you see that, okay, it's not necessary to stop. So I think that right now people still ideal career is to just work many years and then become some kind of manager. but it will slowly change into working on one place and then continuing to code for many years, to become advanced coding or advanced coder or something like that, to just work even until your retirement, maybe in the same field, stay up to date and continue the path that you started. So in the future, I think that it will become more standardized in some sense, so that you start coding, you are good at it, you continue doing it, you are great at it, and then maybe after many, many years, you retire and pursue something else. I hope that will come to Georgia too.
Mhm. And what's most popular is to stay to work in Georgia or to move to pursue the place somewhere in funk, in Facebook, or
Uh,
or in a big tech company.
Before it was very popular. You're right. It was very, very popular to pursue the career in some outside of Georgia companies.
Mhm.
But it was before all of these companies came into Georgia. For example, you mentioned Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. So back in
Mhm.
the day, if you wanted to work for Facebook, it was a big event. So one of my friends in like 10 years ago, they started working at Google, and it was like the unimaginable thing that happened, that two of my friends started working at Google. Right now, you can just sit down, maybe in EPAM, I'm not sure, but just let's say it's just an example. You sit down in EPAM and you work for Google within Georgia. So it's not as popular to go necessarily outside of country, because everything was brought to Georgia, right? All the
Mhm.
international customers and everyone was brought to Georgia. So you don't need to do that. People still do that because they are interested in what happens there, because people are curious, and that's a good thing. But I don't think it's as important or as meaningful as it was before.
Yeah.
Because right now, I see even people that just changing jobs from one famous international company to another in a couple of years. Back in the day, like 10 years ago, if they started in one place, they stayed there because it was a huge deal. It was unimaginable. So it became a more usual thing,
Mhm.
which is still, it is not a bad thing, because you get to decide, and that's good. Yeah. So right now, I don't think that many people are leaving Georgia because they want to build career somewhere else. I think they move out from Georgia because they like some other countries more. They want to explore what other countries and living in the other countries looks like. The age of software engineers is pretty low, right? We start at the early age and we can try out many things. Go ahead, live in another company for a couple of years and then come back. So it's more open and free.
Mhm.
So yeah.
It's really nice to hear that, because you have a
Well,
beautiful country, and it's such a pleasure to live here.
I appreciate your kind words, but as usual, it happens when you live inside the country or are at some place, you appreciate that place less, and then you
Mhm.
think that somewhere else it's more beautiful. So unfortunately, that always happens.
Archil, thank you.
But thank you.
Thank you for your answers. It was really nice to hear you. It was very interesting stories.
Thank you, man. Thanks for the opportunity, by the way.